episode of the Fertility Podcast. I'm Natalie Silverman, your host. How's your week been? It's the 1st of July. Oh my goodness. What? How did we get to July so quick? It's mental how quickly this year has gone. Hope you've had a good week and all that. Anyone been to Glastonbury? Feeling a little bit jaded, but I mean glorious weather. We've had beautiful weather in the UK finally for Glastonbury, and now we've kind of got Wimbledon starting, and who knows, maybe the good weather is going to continue, but probably not. We'll probably get rain, won't we? Yeah. So I just wanted to refer to what I talked about personally in my previous episode, if you've been listening chronologically, because I did have emails from you and messages on Insta saying that I made you cry, and I apologise. I was being quite open about where I'm at, which I do from time to time, and I know that the content of the episode with Caroline sharing her story as well was quite personal, and apologies for any sadness caused. Sometimes this conversation is a bit tricky, isn't it? And I know it really triggers our emotions. So I just hope that, if that did trigger something, that you just took stock to give yourself a bit of space and process it. It wasn't meant to be really heavy. It was just meant to be informative, really, and help you see that there's other people that are really where you're at. And the whole frozen embryo conversation is something that, like I've said before, I will be having again. What else has been going on in fertility podcast world? Well, I don't talk about this enough, but this podcast is a social enterprise, and the whole mission that it's on is to educate and empower you. And last week I was having the second conversation that I've been having about a potential grant for the podcast, which is well exciting because it's going to enable me to do more, because I do make this podcast alongside my day job, and ultimately I want to carry on making it and do as much as I can to give you really useful information wherever you're at in your journey. And that brings me on to really what's going on with this episode, because you might have heard that last month in June, because we're talking in July 2019, I launched a new radio show on UK Health Radio, which is an internet radio platform, with Kate Davies, who is a wonderful fertility nurse and the founder of Your Fertiltiy Journey. We've been making more content together, still interviewing experts and sharing real life stories, but it's the two of us. And what I was thinking of doing is sharing bits and bobs of that show on the podcast. However, it's meaning that I'm making a lot of content, and it doesn't quite make sense in my head for me to be making 2 weekly shows at the moment, because I haven't really got the capacity to do it. So what I might be doing is sharing with you on an ongoing basis what I share on UK Health Radio, which is what you're going to hear today. You're going to hear the whole chat that Kate and I did with Dr Fertility, who are Lucy and Kobi, who are a brilliant couple. Well, they're not a couple, but they're like a couple. Two ladies that have created an amazing website full of products for you to help you on your fertility journey, as well as real top class information. And you'll hear the chat that the four of us did together. And I would really love to know from you. This is really vital. I really want your feedback. Are you happy for the podcast to be Kate and I for a little while? So slight change in what's going on. Just drop me a message at fertilitypoddy on my socials, or you can email me, natalie@thefertilitypodcast.com, and let me know what you think of our chats. You can check it out over at UK Health Radio as well. It's ukhealthradio.com, and their socials are UK Health Radio on Twitter and Instagram, etc. We're sharing it on our socials so that you can, find it. It's not meaning anything's going to stop with the podcast. It just means that there's going to be two voices from Kate and I. And Kate's got a more medical background than me, so it kind of means you're going to get better information. Not that what I give you isn't the best I can give, but it's an added bonus, let's say. Please, your feedback is really vital with this. So if you can just take a moment, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, to let me know your thoughts, that would be amazing. Have a listen, let me know. Hello and welcome to Talk Fertility, a show where we do just that, talk about fertility. I'm Natalie Silverman, host of the Fertility Podcast, which I launched in 2015, once successfully pregnant after having fertility treatment.
And I'm Kate Davies, a trained fertility nurse and founder of Your Fertiltiy Journey, where I work one-to-one with women and couples to help them understand and optimise their fertility.
Now, Kate, we've spent all day together recording our first bout of chats for this brand new show, Talk Fertility, which is all about us talking about fertility.
Yep.
How many miles have you travelled today?
Well, it was 2.5 hours.
So about 150 miles,
yeah,
I'd say. And
maybe a bit more.
How many hours sleep have you had?
2.
2 hours sleep.
2 hours sleep.
What time is it now?
2 hours sleep.
What time is it now?
It's now 10:20.
Right, now the good
in
thing
the evening.
is, the good thing is the fact that it's 10:20 in the evening means that we can only probably speak to people that we're friends with.
Yeah.
Because
it would be indecent otherwise.
It would be. We've had dinner, and I think it's really great that we're now joined by Lucy and Kobi from Dr Fertility.
Hi.
Partly because we're all friends, but partly because you've been working very closely with these guys. Ladies, just explain a little bit about what Dr Fertility is. And I must just say that we are in Lucy's very vacuous kitchen, which is lovely, but vacuous when it comes to recording. Because it sounds very spacious.
It doesn't.
Which is just demonstrative of what a lovely space this is, and fresh and clean, and lots of very shiny surfaces.
Big words at this time of night.
I know, I'm surprising myself.
I'm glad you like it, lady.
So Dr Fertility is 2-3 years old now?
2 years old. So officially 2 years old. Yeah. So, well, basically, Lucy and I used to live together. So we lived together in a flat in Didsbury, Manchester, for 4.5 years. We were in our 30s, single. There's a bit of Bridget Jones style going on here. Yes, yeah. We'd often go out on a Friday night to go and meet guys, and then we'd end up just saying, should we just go home and eat cheese and drink red wine? Yeah, we just wanted to be together, didn't we? Yeah. So I'll
just add that Lucy and Kobi aren't actually a couple.
No. I'm sorry.
Seem like a couple. No, it's not a bad thing. They're a working couple, aren't you?
Yes. But we love each other very much. We do. It's like having another husband. I really like it. So we lived together in our 30s, and we had lots of people commenting about our biological ticking clocks. Yes, and there was one.
So friends or family?
Well, not family so much for me, but it was friends and people at work. Okay. So I was in a role and I managed a guy who came up to me one day and he said to me, Lucy, I'm really worried about you. And I said, oh really? He said, yes, I'm really worried about you. I'm worried about your fallopian tubes and I think you need to find yourself a husband.
I can't believe a man said that to you.
Yeah.
With a woman saying
it's a good point actually.
Why your fallopian tubes?
He was concerned about my fallopian tubes. And I
did work in the kind of pharma world. So
yeah, so I was working in the pharmaceutical industry at the time. I said to him, well, that's great. Thank you very much. I'm actually a little bit worried about your job and I think you need to get back to it. I mean, you and I had lots of comments like this. Yeah, we did. Our biological clock ticking, and we were at the time fairly resilient to it, but what it did do was make us think a little bit more and do some more research. Well, we were just kind of like, well, where do you go if you've got questions about your fertility? And at that time, which was about probably 7 years ago, there wasn't anywhere.
You would go to your doctor. That's the place that you would go. And actually,
or maybe your friends.
Well, a lot of people go to Dr Google.
Yeah,
which is just full of conflicting information and lots of products making huge claims. Unsubstantiated claims. Like we love the herbal tampon, don't we? The herbal tampons that claim to unblock your fallopian tubes at £60 a pack.
Oh my goodness, how many?
I think there's 3 in a pack, so yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we kind of were like, actually, this is a great opportunity because my background is e-commerce and marketing, so I've got 18 years experience. My last role was Ecommerce Director at AO. It was an amazing experience, but at the end of the day, I was selling fridges. And it was kind of like, well, this is for me, something that gives me more of a purpose. I can help people. Obviously, Lucy's background is very different to mine. So I'm completely different to Kobi. I'm a pharmacist by background. I went on to do a PhD, so I really enjoy the science side of things and the research. And then
I'm surprised you not put
Dr. Lucy. I always get a bit shy about that. I'm surprised you not put the science voice on. The science voice, would you like a little bit of science?
Let's have the science bit. Okay. Let's have the science bit to Dr Fertility.
Very comfortable with science voice. So I've had a variety of roles in community pharmacy, hospital pharmacy, and then in the pharmaceutical industry, working for big companies like Novartis and Baxter Healthcare, where we're really careful about regulations and making sure that everything we do is accurate, fair and balanced, and we don't make unsubstantiated claims. And then you go onto Google and it's really bizarre. Yeah.
And I don't think people necessarily realise that, because I do think we have, whilst we are wary at times of the internet, I do think when we're researching products, for example, we'd assume that if there's something on Amazon or something, that what is there and what is being written about it is factual, and that's something that you're kind of not disproving.
I guess so. And I think from my background, I'm probably very critical, but
If you don't have that background, you might think, oh, it's on the internet, so therefore it's okay. So we're really careful about the products we pick for the site, and we put them through our internal quality control process, and then we speak to experts like Kate. We ask for their opinion on things, and putting a product on our site, we really want to make sure that we're giving patients or customers the right products and helping them to make an informed decision about what's right for them.
Because people say, oh, look, how are you different from Amazon? And it's kind of like, well, Amazon is very transactional, and they'll have products that you can go on there and easily find, and there'll be a lower price. But what we do is actually we give like a balanced view of the product sourcing.
And I love it because you say what Dr Fertility love about this product, and it is completely balanced and fair. And I really like that.
So it's not just the benefits, it's actually we'll pull out the drawbacks.
And I think that's really 100%. Important to give that balanced view. And the other thing that we're really passionate about is not all products are suitable for everybody. So we try and make it as clear as possible. So, for example, if you have PCOS, then some products won't be suitable for you. So if there is a product on our site that won't be suitable for a certain type of person, we will pull that out and make that obvious, because we don't want people wasting their money on things that aren't good for them.
No,
definitely. And that information elsewhere is often just in the small print right at the very bottom, and people don't see it.
If at all.
Yeah.
So it's so crucial that it's front and centre.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
To make women can make informed choices.
What you hope with what you've put together with the website is that people come to you at the point that they're literally thinking about trying to conceive.
Absolutely.
Not once they know there's a problem. It's if you're wanting to have a family, there's information here, and then products to help you at every stage. And I know, Kate, with the work that you do with, for example, ovulation monitors, that's something that you guys can help people understand more about.
Yeah, well, I think there was some research that came out recently that showed that people spend more time planning their summer holiday than they do planning to get pregnant.
Oh, I can well imagine.
And we are really passionate about raising awareness about getting pregnancy body ready, but also if you've started to try to get pregnant, there's so much you can do to get yourself in the best shape, which will help you to conceive, but also help you during your pregnancy, and also maximise your chances of getting pregnant.
Yeah, so we developed a 5-step guide. It was a couple's guide to getting pregnant, to help educate people on all those positive things they can do to help maximise their chances. So Lucy and Kate, you wrote that together, which obviously is a great resource for people who are even just thinking about it, because what people don't realise is you need to start making positive changes 3 to 6 months before you even start trying.
Absolutely. All about egg quality and sperm quality.
Yeah, so a lot of guys especially think that they're sort of good at the weekend, they'll have super sperm on a Monday, but that's not necessarily how it works.
No.
The sperm production factory takes approximately 3 months.
Yeah.
But you've also been highlighting job significance affecting things like sperm health. I know that there's examples of specific jobs that can have detrimental effects.
Yeah, so in terms of the couple's guide, there's 5 steps, as Kobi mentioned. So the first step is sort of prepare your bodies and all the things that you need to think about to get both of your bodies in the best possible shape. And we do cover occupations. So for men, if they have jobs where they drive a lot or they work in really hot environments, so they might work in a kitchen or a foundry, that can not help sperm health because the scrotum must be kept slightly cooler.
Absolutely.
Which and that's why outside the body. Yeah, exactly. So it's educating guys on if you think your job might be detrimental to your sperm health, to talk to your manager and maybe try and make some adjustments if you're trying to get pregnant.
Okay, I know you've got a unproven theory about
I do.
Sperm health. Is it sperm health?
Yes, it is. And I can't, it's not mine. It's the lady that I did my fertility training with, and she's always sworn by it. And it's that men who have hot hands and thick thighs are going to have poorer quality sperm. And that's because the scrotum is kept at a hotter temperature.
Okay, that does make sense.
Yeah. So if you've got, and I can often tell if I shake a man's hand and their hand's hot and they've got these thick thighs, I'm like, I'm not quite sure about your sperm quality.
Do they often reveal that is the problem?
Is there any data to support this?
No, there's absolutely none. So it's anecdotal, and I don't know, because actually, you know, it could be that I'm shaking hands with
a rugby player who's
nervous to see you.
Yeah. It could,
Nervous to see the luscious cake.
it could be many different reasons, but it's an unproven theory. Very much anecdotal, but interesting.
So the next step, which is a great step to talk about, is get cycle savvy.
Yeah.
So Dr Fertility developed a educational health awareness campaign called Get Cycle Savvy with Kate Davies.
With me.
Yes.
So let's talk a bit about that, because the problem that a lot of women realise is that they don't know their cycle until they try to conceive, when they realise that maybe they've got no idea of how long their cycle is. When they ovulate, they don't understand what happens. And we know that when you're trying to conceive and there's all that pressure put on the right time to have sex, the implications that then has on your sex life. So what were you trying to convey with it?
Well, our hypothesis was that women who were trying to get pregnant didn't have the basic understanding of the things that could help them to maximise their chances. So we developed a questionnaire for women to answer. So it was 10 simple questions based on sort of key information that they would need to know. And we got, was it 18,000?
Yeah, so 18,000 responses, which was just fantastic.
We were really surprised at the amount of interest, weren't we?
Yeah, and it confirmed what, our hypothesis, that actually there is a real lack of understanding when it comes to basic, fertility information.
And I think a lot of that is perpetuated by us as medical professionals as well, because, we're always talking about day 14 of ovulation day of a 28-day cycle, but very few women have a 28-day cycle, and very few women will ovulate on day 14.
Yeah.
So that we're giving mixed messages.
But also, I think if you just sort of go back a step as well, when we're at school, we're all taught how not to get pregnant.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And we don't really have any education about how to get pregnant. Now,
and as well, I would say, like, I was on the pill for 15 years, so I came off the pill a year before I thought I wanted to start trying for a baby, and up until that point I didn't have a clue how long my cycles were, or I had absolutely no information about my fertility.
And so with Cycle Savvy, you're explaining, are you, the products we mentioned, like ovulation monitors, the products that people can use, as well as the things they need to be aware of?
So what we did is we had this questionnaire that we gave out to women, and then what we did was we used video to answer the questions and give people. So the first part of the video showed the results to show, like, in a lot of cases, a lot of women didn't know this, and this is how many women in the survey didn't. And then we got Kate, who was our expert, to talk about the answer. So we use that as an educational campaign.
Yeah, so it was talking about things like products you could use, but also natural fertility indicators that you can measure yourself, and as well PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which can affect, well, the official number is like 1 in 10, but some people believe it's 1 in 5 women.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. We've discussed this quite a lot, haven't we? Like, how many is it? So we sort of say now it's in between 1 in 5 to 1 in 10 women who we think
it's definitely on increase, and that's only the ones that we know.
I was going to say, because there's an issue with the diagnosis.
It takes on average takes 13 years to get a diagnosis of PCOS.
But that was one of the reasons you
13 years.
set up your practice, wasn't it? Because you felt frustrated that there wasn't support for for women
I was
with PCOS.
absolutely frustrated that there was not support for women trying to conceive naturally, regardless. PCOS is a big part of it, but also for couples who are trying to conceive naturally, there was nothing. They're told by their GPs initially, go away, keep trying, and then it's this push into IVF, which there's this big gap. There's this big back gap where so much can be done with natural fertility, but we're ignoring those.
Yeah, and that's where we felt the real synergy was with
absolutely,
you.
100%.
And that's why we love working with Kate so much, because she's really aligned to our sort of values and everything that we want to do, because we believe there is so much you can do, and it's about raising awareness of those things.
So alongside a specific issue like PCOS, we've obviously got one of the worst diagnoses that people can have when they're trying to conceive, which is unexplained infertility. Really and if people are listening and they've been trying, and maybe they've had some element of testing done, and they've been given this subfertility, unexplained infertility diagnosis, what can they gain from the guide?
So we've developed these 5 steps, which really, regardless of your situation, anyone can take that information and use it. I guess Kate could probably explain a bit more about unexplained infertility in her sort of practice, but a lot of that information in terms of preparing your bodies, that will only help you make sure you time it right. That's going to help you. Then we talk about step 3 is talk about the products. So we're raising awareness of the products you can use, but not also raising awareness of products, but raising awareness of finding the right product for you. And then we also talk about how stressful it can be trying for a baby, no matter what your situation is or how long you've been trying. And we want to sort of tell people that that's really normal. And because a lot of people don't talk about fertility and their fertility journey, they may feel quite alone, but it can be really stressful. And I think because we're always taught how not to get pregnant, and we kind of believe that when we do try to get pregnant, we're going to get pregnant straight away.
Yeah.
So when it doesn't happen straight away, it can feel like a shock.
It is frustrating because there's no answer, there's nothing that can be fixed. Yet, there's kind of more recently, people have been talking about the fact that it's only unexplained because they actually can't find a reason.
Exactly.
Probably is a reason, but we just haven't got the science.
It's like when they say everything's viral. It's viral infection.
Yeah.
It's like they don't know. Like the research, we don't have.
Well, the other
that
thing
data.
is that I think we need to sort of take into account is the NHS states that in a given month you've got 20% chance of getting pregnant, and it's absolutely normal for it to take you up to a year.
Well, by 12 months, 80% of couples have conceived, which is a big amount, isn't it, really? But there's still that 20% that haven't.
Yeah, I mean, it's that. So in the first sort of 12 months of try, it can take up to 12 months.
12 months of 80% is couples having regular sex.
Yeah, and that's considered every sort of 2 to 3 days. And
Yeah.
that's something that I think is really interesting because we feel like, and in terms of what we're doing and when we talk to our friends and our colleagues, that everyone feels really busy. Life feels, you know, we live in this digital
my own
world.
personal experience. Like I was Ecommerce Director at AO, and I managed a team in Germany and the UK. I was flying overseas a lot, and
So
you
when
know,
was the
you
time?
could easily, well, I remember, I hope you don't mind me sharing, but we were talking about, you were trying to
Of
time your
course.
flights
yeah,
around ovulation.
I was trying to plan business trips around when I thought I was going to ovulate, which is really stressful.
Well, it's stressful. The job's stressful in itself, and trying to time it around ovulation. But that's if one of you works away. If 2 of you work away, it's getting more and more difficult.
Yeah.
And
So
I frequently
we've
see
got-
this with my patients when they'll say, they're working different shifts, or one is away out of the country, and actually that time, because it's only that small window, isn't it, of ovulation, 12 to 24 hours, and obviously your fertile time around that, but it's still only a small. And when you think about that, I think, how does anyone ever get pregnant?
And
Of course we do.
There's more people having babies in their 30s compared to 20s now. Like we've seen this shift to like women having children later in life, and we have got full-on lives, we've got full-on jobs. They say like have sex every 2 to 3 days, and do you know what? If you can do that, that's amazing. But I think realistically, for a lot of couples, that's
So
just
that's
not.
when. So what we say if you pick up our guide, we say if you have just started trying, you want a really relaxed approach, having sex every 2 to 3 days, then you're likely to catch your fertile window, which commences 5 days before ovulation, includes the day of ovulation. So that's a 6-day window. But if you have sort of more sort of challenges in your life, you're sort of traveling, or if you just want to be a bit more proactive and you're really keen to capture that fertile window, that's when the products can be helpful.
Yeah.
If you want to pinpoint ovulation, some of the fertility monitors that kind of come under the umbrella of femtech that sort of track your cycle and help you understand more about your body, some of those can help you identify more fertile days per cycle.
In the over 180 podcast episodes that I've made where I've spoke to a lot of fertility experts, the most common issue that most experts say about when couples are trying to conceive is not having enough regular sex.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
And it's
100%.
before even having to walk through a fertility
It's
clinic or-
interesting, isn't it? Because going back to what Kate was saying about this, you ovulate on day 14, and from some of our conversations we've had with some of our customers, is there is a bit of a myth that people ovulate mid-cycle. Some people can ovulate late in their cycle.
Even with a 28-day cycle, you can still ovulate
that's
a lot
true.
later
Yeah.
than day 14.
So I guess if you've been trying for a while, you may want to understand a bit more about when you ovulate. And there are tools out there to help you do that. Yeah. And that's a personal decision.
But I think with long cycles, so PCOS, for example, having the ability to track your cycles on your fertile window with PCOS is giving you information that is like gold dust. Absolute gold dust. Because it's so difficult to identify the fertile window and ovulation with that type of cycle.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think as well, like when we talk to men, you know, the men's view is they don't like to be told when they have to have sex. So it's like you're trying to identify when you're fertile, then you're trying not to make it really blatantly obvious to your partner.
And you want to keep the romance.
The time is now. But some, you know, if they're tired, they're stressed, then in the end you have to say, I'm ovulating, this is the right time. And you know, there's that pressure to perform, which men really struggle with sometimes.
Yeah, and we address that in the guide. And the other thing, there's a bit of a myth that some guys think that if they store up their sperm, that when they do ejaculate, that they will have super sperm. But really, it should be...
You need to empty your load regularly.
Yeah, absolutely. So once the sperm leaves the production factory, it should be stored for a maximum of sort of 2 to 3 days. And that sort of ties in with having that regular sex every 2 to 3 days.
So if you're leaving it too long, you're getting the worst. You're not getting the good sperm. You're getting the stale sperm.
And also I read some that sounds gross. I read some really interesting research just a couple of weeks ago about the fact if you have regular sex, the uterus gets used to the presence of sperm, so it doesn't view it as a foreign body.
That's really
if you
interesting.
have infrequent sex, then the uterine environment isn't as accepting to sperm.
And I do understand there is some research going on about sperm allergy at the moment, I think in Manchester, which is creating a little bit of interest. But the other thing is that I think we all forget, sex makes us feel really good. All the endorphins that are released, it's really good for us to have sex. But I think when you're trying for a baby, you kind of forget that, and it becomes really focused on baby making.
It becomes more like a chore, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, ladies, it's been very insightful hearing about what you've put together, and we will, of course, put all the Dr Fertility info on the show notes for this chat. One thing that Kate and I have been asking our guests is what you would ask, what one bit of advice would you give your younger, more fertile self? And it's meant to be applicable whether you've had fertility struggles or not, but knowing what you know now from what you do, what would you say?
Okay, so I think for me, I recently got asked a question that got me thinking, that when I was single, did I feel pressure from society to have a baby? And I think perhaps I did on a subconscious level. At the time I didn't actually realise that, but after learning more about being a solo mum, the options other people are saying, I think that when I was single, if I had known more about that option, I would have felt really empowered, and I think I might have enjoyed my single time a bit more and felt more
without the pressure.
Yeah, and I think I'd have felt more in control of my fertility, and I really wish that I'd had that education earlier on.
Yeah, I agree.
For me, I think it's just that education piece about understanding the impact of age on fertility, and you know, and it's making those informed decisions, not just for myself but for my friends as well, just to better understand. You know, I've always been a career person, I've had, you know, senior roles, and just understanding the impact of delaying starting a family.
But also we find it really interesting that it's not just women that have a biological clock.
Yes, yeah.
That for guys, age can also affect their fertility, which we've learnt from working with Professor Alan Pacey.
Which is not really well known, you know.
No,
everyone assumes that men can carry on.
Everyone talks about Charlie Chaplin.
Carry on conceiving until you're in your 80s, 90s.
And it doesn't mean to say they can't,
but it's very hard.
But after the age of 40, what the research suggests is that the sperm is less healthy, it doesn't swim as well, the size and shape isn't as good, and that doesn't always affect conception, but it sometimes can increase risk of miscarriage, and that's something again to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much for having us.
Well, I know that's a bit of a different one for you, Kate, because you're kind of quite involved working with Dr Fertility ladies, but that type of information being available in the time that you've been working with your clients and answering the questions that they're asking you, this kind of resource and these products being available, have you seen that kind of pickup from your kind of community? Have you seen that people are realising that there is really trusted, valid information out there now?
Absolutely. I think I'm finding that women are realising more and more that Dr. Google is not where they need to be going, and finding that really reputable, credible source is so vital. And I always put my patients Dr. Fertility way, because their information is so credible, and it's trustworthy, 100% trustworthy. It's just an amazing resource.
And we mentioned the Cycle Savvy campaign that you have done with Dr. Fertility, so we'll put the details of that in the show notes. Just remind people how they follow you on your socials.
On Instagram, I'm Your Fertiltiy Journey.
Have we ditched that?
We've ditched the
underscores?
The underscore.
See if I mentioned it enough. And I'm at Fertility Poddy. And also we mentioned you with your PCOS expertise, and part of what Kate and I are hoping to create in this show that we're doing on a regular basis is I'm going to be extracting Kate's expertise as her background as a fertility nurse is so vital to the conversation, as well as us talking to all these different people. But we really want to have that PCOS chat. And what we encourage you to do, if you've got any questions, is to email in to talkfertility@gmail.com, whether they're about the show so far, because it's a new show and we've covered a small amount of the plethora of fertility topics that we're going to be touching on, but especially with the PCOS side of things, because that's a big passion of yours, isn't it?
Yeah, so any questions, we'd love to read them, so please send them in.
Okay, there you go. So feedback, please, Natalie@thefertilitypodcast.com, or follow me at Fertility Poddy on socials. What do you think of that new format? You happy to have me and Kate in your ear holes every week? I would love it if you really just give me your thoughts on this. Maybe you just want it to be me. That's fine. I'll work out how best I can service this. But yeah, just let me know your thoughts. And if you've got time to rate and review the podcast as well, I love you for doing that, because it just helps this podcast bubble away in all the different podcast places. And the show notes for this episode, if you want to find out more about Lucy and Kobi with Dr. Fertility, their Get Pregnancy Fit guide that they mentioned, and also how you can find out more about Kate, just visit thefertilitypodcast.com/Dr Fertility. And thank you as always for your support, and until the next time.